Hi everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Book Diaries. This will be Book Diaries episode number 2. And I'm back. So, the year's coming to an end. It's been hell of a year. I think definitely 2025 was my year. I had a lot of accomplishments, accomplishments in any field, in academic, in my relationships, friendships, anything, even personal growth, reading especially. I was able to discover a lot of really amazing books. So here we are. I want to talk about the books I read this year, the ones that I enjoyed the most, the ones that I did not like, maybe, or the ones that had the most impact on me for sure. So I usually have this Google Docs on my phone that I always write the books that I read. So I was looking through it, so I was like, I need to count how many books I read. So in this list, I usually have the novels I read, the novellas, the short stories, even sometimes the non-fiction books. So I counted, it was 45 books. I was proud. It was good. I mean, it's not about the quantity, but about the quality. So for sure, I would say this year's quality was great because I think I was kind of able to find my reading style. Most of the books that I'm really interested in, the authors that I really want to read more about, because I think I have kind of a list. Again, I love lists. I think you've noticed about the writers and the books that I want to read more. So let's go and start with the books that I read in 2025 that I enjoyed the most. Let's go. So I have the books here with me, the books that I want to talk about the most are here. I read all of these in Persian. It actually stood out the most to me that the books that I enjoyed the most were read in my mother tongue. So the first one that we're going to talk about, Amazed. Wow. Of Mice and Men. So I have written the summaries of some of the books. I want to read off of some of them. 4 of Mice and Men, which I enjoyed the most, which would be definitely the top on this list. It's about this tragic tale about 2 displaced migrant workers during the Great Depression, and the bond between George and Lenny is tested in a world that is harsh and unforgiving. The journey I had with this book, amazing. I love how it was narrated. I really love the books that have a lot of dialogues. And I don't know if you can notice, but there's a lot of dialogues. So I really enjoyed it. The characters, the characterization, everything was great. I remember I was finishing up the book, I don't know how long ago, but I was on my bed. And I remember after I finished, I was crying. My pillowcases were just wet because of how much I was crying. And I was just in a bad mood the next day because I definitely did not get a good sleep because of the book. But it's surely a masterpiece. And I think if you have not read Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, I forgot to say the name of the author, definitely go and read it and put it at the top of the list again, of the list that you've prepared for the books that you're planning on reading next year. So probably everyone knows this one. It's called White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. It is basically it's a romantic novella that explores themes of loneliness, love, and idealism. The story follows a young man who falls in love with a woman, but is caught in a cycle of unrequited love. This is definitely one of the softest and sweetest books I've read. And I think, it was the first book that I've read by Dostoevsky. I think it is a great start because after that, I started reading other books. And I've been always told that you need to start reading Dostoevsky with White Nights. And I kind of understand why, because that's how you really get to know his writing style and whether you're gonna enjoy this journey with Fyodor Dostoevsky. Even if you're not a person who's really into romance and these tropes, I think anyone would enjoy it. And again, it is one of those masterpieces, one of those books that everyone has been told to read. And if you haven't read this book, I doubt you can consider yourself a reader. This one is a unique book. It was my first experience with a Turkish author. And I'm gonna first read the Turkish name because it was really hard for me to find the original English name, and I really had no clue of how to translate the Persian name. But the Turkish is Beş, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but it's Beş Sevim Apartmanı, Rüya Tabirleri, Cinperi Yalanları, which would be the fifth Sevim apartment, the lies of the dream interpreter jinns and fairies by Mina Soat. I was amazed by this book. I loved it. And let me tell you the summary. It's a novel that's rooted in Turkish folklore about a psychiatrist, Dr. Samimi, who tries to confront the jinns and fairies tormenting his patients. The story explores themes of dreams, possession, and the dark influence of supernatural beings on the human psyche. I would mostly consider this as a psychological novel because as I was going through it, there are many patients. I'm sure I'm not sure whether I'm telling it right because I read this a long time ago, maybe like 12 months ago. But it's when you're reading through the stories of the patients, once it is told by their point of view and once it is told by what has actually happened, and the similarities that you find, the contrast that you find, and the truths and the hidden meanings, it is such a great experience. I definitely recommend this to people who are into human psychology mostly. So, see, I think this is one of the books that I want to reread next year, hopefully. As someone who hates rereading or rewatching, no, I like rewatching. Let me stop myself there. But I do not reread books. Never. I think that has never happened to me. So this might be the first book that will be reread in the next year. Another category I want to add is the books that I watched as well as reading, either in theater or in the cinema. First was King Lear by William Shakespeare. I'm gonna put the picture here. I went to the theater. Amazing. It was a musical. And because I was exactly reading the book at the same time, it was able to give me some insights on the ending because I wasn't finished while I was watching the theater play. But again, amazing experience. The next one is The Suicide Shop by John Steinbeck. Amazing book. Just crying my eyes out at the end of it. Again, this year I've read books that surprised me with the ending so much. I cried mostly with the endings, the things that I was not expecting at all. And I also listened to the audio book for The Suicide Shop, which was narrated by one of my favorite actors, Persian Iranian actors, which made, again, the experience really fun because I really loved his narration and I love his voice. And these were all in the theater. I also watched Of Mice and Men, the movie version. I think I should just choose this book as my top book of the year. I watched the movie adaptation. It was definitely as emotionally intense as the book. And something that really shocked me about the movie adaptation was that every single dialogue, every single part of the movie, even the characters, their looks, was the same as the book. Like nothing had changed. It was exactly copy and paste, which really shocked me. And when I was watching the movie, it was really shocking to me that the characters, the actors resemble how I picture each character in my mind, which was, I think, the writer's job because he definitely was able to describe each character really well, that a lot of people were able to imagine them in the same way. Now we're gonna move on to the last category. No, it's not the last category. It's the we still have two more categories. This one is the book that changed my perspective on life. It's the short story that I previously mentioned, How Much Land Does a Man Need? Because sometimes we're really caught up in the thoughts of material possessions and how they can make our lives better. We think that if we buy one more book or one more, I don't know, clothes, our life is just gonna get instantly better. This short story definitely taught me about the futility of materialism, and it really affected me as like something clicked, something changed in my mind on how I perceive life, how I perceive possessions. Now it's time for the books I did not enjoy at all. So for the first one, please no hate comments. I want to say it's one of the most well-known books. It's The Metamorphosis by Kafka. I read it halfway through. Not even halfway. I read the first 15 pages, but I had to stop because I did realize that I need to read it when I'm a bit older. I mean, everyone around me told me that you're too young to read this, okay? Just wait. Because I've really noticed that age really affects your understanding of life, and especially in books. Because I would tell my parents to be like, no, I'm really good at understanding. I'm really wise and I can understand the hidden meanings. But that's not the case for all the books. Sometimes you actually need to grow older. Because, for example, for another short story I read by Ernest Hemingway, I do not remember the name, but I read it in exactly a 1 year difference. And I did not read any interpretations, or I didn't talk about it with anyone. But the first time that I read it, I was like, this is nonsense. Like, what is happening? But the next time that I read it, it was actually this year. I was able to understand, and I was in wow. Like, I was like, this is amazing. That's how important that is. And it's really seen in the teenage years, because I would say I just turned 16 like yesterday. So I would say the 15-year-old Armita really differs from the 16-year-old Armita that I'm right now. I can really see the changes vividly, I would say. So I'm definitely giving The Metamorphosis another chance, because I have no right to judge it, especially that I didn't read it completely. There's this short story that I didn't really like. It was the Schwabian Bath by Herta Müller. It's like, I think, a 1-page short story. I had this Telegram channel that shares really good, amazing short stories, great classical music, or anything, any sort of art. It could be even painting. So I was going through this, I was bored, I was like, oh, I like this story, let me just read it. I think I read it in less than a minute. It's extremely short. After I finished, I was like, why did anyone write this? Like, I cannot understand what it's trying to convey. But then, while I was writing the script for this YouTube video, I was going through some interpretations, and the moment that I read even a single line of that interpretation, I was like, oh, now I understand everything. Now everything came together, and I was like, oh wow, now that I think of it, it makes a lot of sense. And I was amazed how Herta Müller was able to convey that message in just some short lines. It wasn't that short, but still a page, in order to tell a story. So, but it still was my least favorite, although I really appreciated the meaning behind it. The process that I went through, again, like just rethinking it, because I think I reread it 5, 6, 7, no, 6, 7 jokes intended, by the way. I was not able to understand it, so that's why it was my least favorite. I believe when you finish a book, the thing that was supposed to happen, the change that was supposed to take place in you, will take place whether you like it or not, whether you notice or not. So it will stay with you. A part of the book will always stay with you, even if you don't remember a line of it. What is my plan for 2026? As I told you, I kind of figured out the type of books that I really like the most, which is definitely the Russian literature. And I think I want to read more of philosophy. I mean, for Dostoevsky, I think I showed this book the last 2 weeks in the previous episode as well. As you can see, I've annotated. I don't want to really show my annotations, but again, I take my time reading. Okay, don't judge me. It takes me a lot of time to read, and especially I was really busy with the IB curriculum stopping me from reading. But still, I started reading this Dostoevsky book, and I want to move on to, I think, the Notes from Underground. if I haven't mistaken the name. And this is the plan for next year. So guys, thanks a lot on joining me for this episode of Book Diaries. I will hopefully see you next week in a brand new episode. Bye! Oh, I forgot to drink. Oops.